At least one of them is Sherman. Where did Sherman go to school? Your direction? Well, you know what it was? When I got to whatever address that was, my GPS said, you have arrived. But I saw a bunch of cars going this way, and I just followed them. And followed them, followed them, and I ended up back.
Years ago, they had a farm here attached to it where you could bring your kids to see animals and stuff. It was really nice.
Bunch of cars.
I brought the kids here once.
They used to have one in Indian Mountain Park. Winter Park too. No longer have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Is it in the way?
You're welcome to sit up in the front chairs. What?
What?
Go ahead.
One of them went to.
They're not reserved?
No.
The other one was Sherwood.
I'm saving that.
Well, I'm sure she was. No recollection. Well, she knew Gary. She knew Gary. So I pointed, but she didn't know much. I asked her.
They were for yesterday.
Is this in the way?
We're good.
So I didn't ask her.
Not anymore.
It's tempting to see the cross.
Start playing. Don't walk too far away.
Like I told you what I said, steal your face right off your head. Now it's gone. Now it's gone. But he's gone. He's gone. Like a steam locomotive rolling down the track. He's gone, he's gone. Nothing's gonna bring him back. He's gone. 9 mile skid on a 10-mile ride. Hot as a pistol, but cool inside. Cat on a tin roof, dogs in a pie. Nothing left to do but smile, smile, smile. Now he's gone. Now he's gone. But he's gone. He's gone. Like a steam locomotive rolling down the track. He's gone. He's gone. And nothing's gonna bring him back. He's gone.
Helpful in guiding us. And why don't we begin by reading together Psalm 23? It's on the inside of the first page of your pamphlet. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I truly believe that the being here, right, in these green pastures and still waters, that this is, whether you believe in God or fate or the cosmos or whatever that bigger thing than us is, that this is truly the house of such a divine and sacred presence. Hamse menucha nechona tachat kanfei shechina bemalot kedoshim ohorim kezohar harikim masirim et nishmat Mordechai Tzvi ben Michal veMalka shehalach leolamo began emnuchato ana ba'ah harachamim hastirehu beseter kampecha lolamim utzror bitzor hachim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato ve'nuch pashul mishkavo ve'nomar Amen. At the top of the following page. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Mark Harold Sherman, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us all amen. I believe next we have a
But I'd like to invite everybody who knows the words to join for the choruses so that we can all sing to Mark together. Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. And the plans they made put an end to you. I walked out this morning and I wrote down this song. I just can't remember who to send it to. Oh, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again. Won't you look down upon us, Marky? You gotta help us make a stand. You've got to see me through another day. My body's aching and my time is at hand. And I won't make it any other way. Oh, sunny that I thought me times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again. On my mind to an easy time, my back turned toward the sun. Lord knows when the cold wind blows, it'll turn your head around. Well, there's hours of time on the telephone line to talk about things to come. Sweet dreams and flying machines in pieces on the ground. Oh, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you one more time again now. Thought I'd see you one more time again. There's just a few things coming my way this time around now. Thought I'd see you, fire and rain. Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Zoe. That's so beautiful. So we're going to hear from a few folks who are going to share stories and memories about Mark. I'd like to invite up Dustin first to speak.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Dusty, the son of Saeed and Janice. My parents sadly could not be here today as they had a prior commitment to take care of my brother Sean's kids out in Denver. Grandparent duty calls. Both they and my brother love Mark dearly and send their care and support to everyone here today, especially to Holly. My dad wrote something for me to read, but there's no way I'm going to get through that in one piece, so we'll save that for the end. Mark Sherman. Marky Mark. Marcus. Dr. Sherman. My wife Christina and I spent the last few days pouring through hundreds and hundreds of photos from across Mark's beautiful, crazy, adventurous, funny, and loving life. We've been so in awe of what a multifaceted existence he lived, as exemplified by the incredible turnout today. There's not even enough chairs, standing room only, Mark Sherman, incredible. We're here to celebrate such a special person. So how do I fit into the complicated equation that is Mark Sherman? Well, my dad was one of Mark's oldest friends. They met in 1963. I asked my dad if he remembers the first time they hung out. He couldn't say exactly, but he remembers lots of late night card games, dope smoking or organizational activities, and rollicking conversations going deep into the night. Everyone would eventually just pass out where they were, fully clothed, never wanting the night to end. I don't come into the picture until the 90s. Me being the lone kid dragged to these endless dinners with Mark, Holly, Susan, Alan, Miriam, Michael, Jackie, and my parents. I didn't know what the hell anyone was talking about, but whether I was conscious of it or not, these rambling meals is where my love and appreciation for food, film, music, art, history, and politics were all born. It's that I realized that I was raised by some absolute hippie freaks, and I'm very grateful for that. Mark and Holly treated me as their own child. They were like a second set of parents. I think a lot of people can agree to that. I'm just sorry that I couldn't have told Mark how much he meant to me while he was still with us. But I'm so grateful for his support and generosity about my life and my career. It's rare to have that kind of unconditional strength in your life, and Mark was always there. I'll never forget his free street parking anywhere in our cursed city. The parking karma was unparalleled. That's a parking pun. Yeah, unparalleled. Yeah, you guys got it. I don't have to explain it. Yeah, true. Or karma. Oh, see, that's why we have Holly. The infectious and silly laugh. I'll hear it ringing in my ears forever. The gracious sensitivity. His eyes. I always looked forward to seeing him at dim sum and intensively discussing whatever movies or shows he'd seen, commiserating over our beloved Bad Luck Bulls, and hearing about what new adventures he and Holly had stumbled their way into. Truly forever young, wide-eyed, and curious. My brother and I always talked joyously divine as Mark and Holly seem to. Thank you, Holly, for all your warmth and grace this week, but really not just this week, for literally my entire life. And finally, Mark, I'm sorry about the vests. So, when I was in high school, Mark came over to my house with all these beautiful vintage vests he tried to gift me. And me being a petulant teenager, I rolled my eyes and was like, I'm not going to get my ass kicked at wearing these ridiculous vests. Now, after looking at all these photos of Mark through the years, I kept noticing these beautiful vests and Thanks. Okay, so here's Dad wrote. My dad wrote a poem for Mark. I heard your voice to your voice. Sorry, I'm gonna go take 3. I heard your voice in the wind today. I stopped and turned around to see your face. The warmth of the wind finding the way when there is no way. What a sweetness in doing anything. Never feeling past as yesterday, not feeling future like now. And now time is standing still. No joy in happiness, and no pain in suffering.
Thank you, Dusty. Tony. Next. Wow. Mark would be so touched by this. A couple words to share. So all of us who knew and loved Mark understand that he was a product of a very specific time, place, and family. Hebrew school, unlike our mother who was kicked out, and loved to play on the streets with the neighborhood children or build with his Lincoln logs or erector set. Max and Mary, Evie and Mark, they were a remarkable family. Their humble third-floor apartment became a literal and metaphorical refuge. If a childhood friend had to escape a troubling home life, there was always more room to be found in the bed Mark and Evie frequently shared together. I remember them both laughing hysterically about the time when Mark was about 12 and awoke to find 4 or 5 nubile 18-year-old girls sleeping in bed with him. By the 70s, both Mark and our mother had fully embraced counterculture values. She was well on her way to transforming into a vocal feminist and political rabble-rouser. And to Lisa and me, Mark had grown into our super fun and cool, hippie-ish uncle who had seemingly countless interesting friends and girlfriends. Nearly every Friday night throughout her childhood, a revolving cast of characters from distinct worlds would gather at Mark, Max, and Mary's table. Bubbies and Yentas from the neighborhood,
Uncles, aunts, and cousins from across the city and suburbs would sit next to political activists and former nuns, psychologists and professors, musicians and community leaders, all brought by Mark and Evie. I distinctly remember as a teenager watching the leading jazz critic in the city try to explain the brilliance of Miles Davis and Monk to a table of confused great aunts from the old country. Mark emerged from this rare, cross-generational, cross-cultural, and multicultural amalgamation of family and community, where laughter was a constant, the generosity was intoxicating, and everyone was warmly accepted, except Republicans, of course. While my mother obviously identified more with the outrageousness of their father, Mark always struck me as embodying some of the best qualities of both of his parents. His mother's kind, gentle, graceful disposition, and his father's upbeat, good-hearted, occasionally naughty persona and laughter. And from both, Mark clearly gained the empathy, compassion, generosity, and values that would make him the beloved man he became. And then one day he showed up with Holly. She was beautiful, radiant, witty, sassy. She perfectly matched Mark's playfulness, intelligence, zest. Max and Mary instantly adored her. We all did. Evie, Bernie, Lisa, and I were thrilled to embrace her and integrate her into our family. Finally, you got this one right, Max declared. After they eloped, we all celebrated. My mom would later say that she had gained a new sister, Holly. What a couple they became. They savored life and became a vital presence in the lives of so many friends, family members, colleagues, neighbors. For 40 years, I doubt there's been a more universally beloved and adored couple in all of Chicago. You can't talk about Mark, however, without discussing his considerable professional accomplishments. Mark chose to work at Cook County Hospital, at the time one of the most challenging institutions in the country, because he was on the front lines serving a diverse population where he could have the most impact. I've often heard my father and many of Mark's colleagues about what a deeply insightful and impactful therapist Mark was, as well as an uncommonly dedicated and caring mentor to the numerous interns he trained over the years. But Mark was also an influential trailblazer. In the very early phases of the HIV crisis, when the country was immersed in rampant fear, fear-mongering, and demonization, Mark personally established one of the first therapeutic clinics in the country, certainly the first in the Midwest, that addressed the emotional and psychological well-being of HIV patients. Of course he did. Mark's example of responding to adversity and crisis with compassion, creativity, and action has been a deeply influential model and inspiration for me and many, many others. Mark has been interwoven throughout the fabric of my life. At virtually every milestone, he and Holly have been present. Because we are a small family, our relationships are vitally important. Over the last couple days, I've been flooded with so many memories of Mark. The numerous Bulls and Cubs games we attended together, the oh so many holidays, parties, and meals, and the difficult situations and losses we confronted together as a family. From the moment our children were born, both Mark and Holly have been essential to them. Their beloved Uncle Marky played on the floor when they were young, dressed up as Dumbledore for Harry party birthdays, introduced them to dim sum in some of the best restaurants in Chicago, and so much more. And he always showed up with his famous Jell-O molds, which will forever rank among had a gracious soul shock, because it's unimaginable that someone so loved and will be forever missed. And
ask you all to bear with me because it's going to be very hard to get through. I'm going to ask you all to bear with me as this is going to be very hard for me to get through. Mark Sherman was my uncle, my godfather, and my friend. Marky, his singular laugh, that unforgettable, that sly smile, had a zest for life rarely seen. He lived life to the fullest. When people talk about life well lived, Mark truly defined that one. The absolute fun person, always up for an outing, an adventure, a party, of which we shared many together over my entire life. But most of all, he was a deeply compassionate and caring person who left an indelible mark on our lives. Our close bond started soon after my birth. I had been born prematurely and in an incubator for many weeks. As family lore goes, after I finally went home, and for the next 2 years, I wouldn't stand to be apart from my mother. I would wail at the top of my lungs. The only other two people who had allowed to hold me were my father and my Uncle Mark. Inherently, I knew I was safe in his arms. For as long as I can remember, Mark always treated me with respect, and like I was much older than my years, even as a young child. He had that ability to relate to people no matter their age. In a sense, he seemed ageless. Growing up, I always thought he was just the coolest human being with the most interesting friends, and wanted to be around him and a part of it. Two early childhood memories that Mark out and served as important learning lessons in my life I'd like to share. When I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, he got into a horrible car accident in the middle of the night. My mother brought him to her house after he got out of the hospital to recuperate. After my mom had warned me what he looked like, with bloody bandages and bruises on his body, I was frightened to see him. But being worried, scared, and curious at the same time, I decided to peek my head and slightly cracking open the door and saw him lying in a bed covered in those bandages. I remember thinking he looked like a monster. Somehow he knew me, even though he couldn't see me. None of our friends had heard of the dishes we would go on about. Our dim sum brunches became a family tradition. Childhood food adventures developed our palates that led both my brother and I to have a deep love and appreciation for these cuisines and cultures. My special bond with Uncle Mark continued as I got older. That fun side of Mark could also be a little naughty at times. We share that in common from the Sherman family gene, as Tony spoke to. Another first for me is a cherished memory from high school. I had a sleepover at his apartment, and that night we went out with his friends. I remember being in a convertible, driving in the back seat with the wind blowing, with music blaring. Something else was consumed as well that we won't talk about. That way that he and his friends treated me made me feel like an adult for the first time in my life. It was such a fun night I've never forgotten, and would have many more over the coming decades. Then Holly came into his world and changed all of our lives. The perfect partners, their mutual love of travel, films, music, food, art. They inside their house and how every single Omar's where he fit right in, and everyone he encountered, including Alan and Omar, episode and character. We would send favorite movies we had just seen, excitedly sharing it. Excitedly sharing it. Mark was deeply charitable and caring about the living, a supporter and defender of social justice. We texted about the current state of affairs, as well as funny pics and anecdotes on Instagram to counter the recent political narrative and outrage. I often sent him and Holly, once sent him and Holly a profile for Benji the Bernedoodle, whose father takes him on endearing cross-country adventures. Mark fell in love with Benji as much as I did, and when he found out he donated to his surgery. In closing, Mark lived a life of purpose, trying to make a difference. He saw beauty everywhere. Over the past few years, I've had the privilege to participate. While Mark's departure,
Good thing I'm not wearing stilettos. But you probably figured that colleagues, Renslow Shearer, whose daughter is here today, because he couldn't be here. He's in Canada, but he sent me some thoughts, and I really wanted you to understand his work. I touched on it in the obituary. This really says it. And then after in Chicago. Thank you, Renslow. Effectively balance his work and playtime and end. He worked a 4-day week. What a concept. Totally secretly so jealous of his friends. We were traveling through life together. We read our best on the road, discovering faraway, strange-sounding names, something we both dreamed about as children. But let us focus on the wonderful time we had together just last week, in South Haven, Michigan, which turned out to be the last week of his life. Perhaps his gentle old soul was wise enough to choose. Me, I waded in up to my neck on tiptoe, enjoying his hydrotherapy massage. One day, there were more waves and we lost. Glorious. The weather was perfect. He was Pan, this is Peter Pan. He was Pan, seeking pleasure always.
My voice come through the music. Would you hold it near as it were your own? It's a hand-me-down. The thoughts are broken. Perhaps they're better left unsung. I don't know. Don't really care. Let there be songs to fill the air. Ripple in still water when there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow. Reach out your hand. If your cup be empty, if your cup is full, may it be again, let it be. There is a fountain that was not made by the hands of men. There is a road, no simple highway between the dawn and the dark of night. And if you go, no one may follow. That path is for your steps alone. Ripple in still water when there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow. You choose to lead, must follow. But if you fall alone. If you should stand, then who's to guide you? If I knew the way, I would take you home. Da 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 da.
the next one. Thank you, Stephen, for that. That's beautiful. So if you happened to look to the east last night, you would have noticed a full moon rising over the lake or the horizon wherever you found yourself, a super blue moon. This will not happen again for another 15 years at this point. What that also means, though, is that we've begun the countdown towards the new moon, and with it, Rosh Hashanah and a new year. And for those in the Jewish community, this is a time of reflecting on the past year and looking ahead to the new. And in that moment, we hold both what is no longer with us, what we've lost, and also the possibility of what the future holds. And it's these moments in which we hold joy and possibility and hope, but also loss and sadness and regret together. I think we're at our most human. And so however you show up in this space, however you're grieving, to know that what you bring here, everything you're holding, is exactly how it should be. Rosh Hashanah is also a time of celebrating the world. We say it's the birthday of the world. And so I think as we navigate these weeks and months ahead, remembering Mark, I think one of the best ways that we can remember him is to embody that wonder and that love of the world, to experience it as if it's coming into being for the very first time, whether it's spending time outside in beautiful places like this, or in exploring new cuisines in different parts of the world, or different communities, different people, whether it's actually just seeing each other in their wholeness of being, to recognize the world that exists within each and every person and to value that and to cherish that. I think those are not only appropriate, but very sacred ways to remember this individual. So as we close this part of our time together, we're going to say a prayer that is traditionally said for those in mourning. And I think appropriate to the way that Mark gathered community around him, I would love if folks would gather around his loved ones. And so we're going to say the Mourner's Kaddish. And so folks, don't mind standing up if you're able, and as Holly and Tony and Lisa lead us in the Mourner's Kaddish alongside his loved ones, his family, his friends. We really don't have to be this formal. I'm asking, come folks, come in. We're gathering around to be in community with one another. To remind each other that even when Mark is gone, the people he's brought together in love still can hold each other. We are on the final page of this pamphlet where it says the Mourner's Kaddish. Are you ready? Yitkada Shemei Bechayechon Yomechon Ufayed Zehol Beit Israel Ba'agala Izman Kari Vimru Amen Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Omei Omaya Yitbarach Vishtabach Vipa'ar Vitwaman Vitnaseh V'yithadar Vitale Vitalal Shemei Dekudisha Brichul La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechmata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imroma, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Mark's memory always be for a blessing for each and every one of us. Thank you all for being here today. I believe next we have a Shiva gathering at Laura Redmond's place. And tomorrow there'll be a Shiva gathering at 3 p.m. at Holly's place as well. Anything else you'd like to share?
Yes, there's a beautiful photo montage inside the house.
In this house here.
That Dustin put together from hundreds of photographs. So if you want to see pictures of Mark's life, go inside this beautiful home. There's 4 monitors, and each one has a different segment of his life. And I also want to just make a shout out.
Holly, do you use the microphone? Oh. For those who missed it, there's a beautiful photo montage in the house. And
there are 4 monitors inside the house, which is beautiful, that Dustin and Christina put together from decades of Mark's life, and they're in 4. It's not the same thing on each one, so go wander in there and look at his life a bit before the Shiva. And I think there's something else, but it's a blur. Take care, and thank you all for being with me and for being with Mark.
Love you, Holly. Gary Planks.